it's Georgia Weedman here, and I am the author of Penetration Testing, a hands-on introduction to hacking, and I'll be your instructor for this accompanying lab. So this time we're going to take a look at DNS reconnaissance. So DNS, we mentioned in the previous exercise, if you're doing these in order, really what it does is take, a name that we humans can remember, like, pentesteracademy.com or bulbsecurity.com, and turn it into an IP address. So you type into your, URL bar or what have you that you want to go to pentesteracademy.com, and, DNS makes that query to turn that into, an IP address, whatever that IP address may be. So it's just another, level of abstraction from, computers speaking zeros and ones underneath to, things that humans are better at, like words and sentences. So with this one, like the last one, it does have, we're going to have to put in the name server manually. You see the note right here, that it is going to be 192.x.y.3, where x and y are going to be the IP address, of your box. So yours is probably going to be different than mine. Number one reason why things will go wrong is you'll use mine and not yours. So definitely, try to remember that. There's, of course, a lab manual. Feel free to go ahead and download that. And let's hop over here to our Kali Linux. I have once again opened up the terminal, which is down here, and I've moved mine over here to the top left, so I am not, my face over here is not in the way of it, hopefully, like it was last time. Alright, so first thing I want to know is my IP address. Again, yours will probably be different. Alright, let's type. Not listening when I type is not appropriate. Let me kill this terminal and start another one. Oh, now I have two. This is going well. Believe me, I'm sure worse things will happen than that. Yeah, now it's fine. Alright, so IP adder to get our IP address. Again, yours is going to be different. Mine is 192.27.247.2, so that means my DNS server will be 192.27.247.3. Again, yours will be slightly different, but the last digit will be 3. Alright, so what we want to do for this one, we're going to use a tool called NSLookup, and NSLookup is interactive, so I am actually going to have to type. Hopefully I will type mostly correctly. So let's take a look at the questions we need to answer. So NSLookup is a tool for, oddly enough, doing DNS reconnaissance, so that's what we'll use. First question, what is the IP address of the primary name server of DNSrecon.com? Alright, so let's take a look at NSLookup. And we can always use clear to clean up our screen. So start up NSLookup. We will get a nice little caret prompt over there. Alright, so first thing I want to do is set my server. Again, you won't necessarily have to do this like if you're doing this in your own lab and not on an online lab. Like in the future when you're doing this in the real world, you'll have DNS servers. When you connect to your router, it'll take care of all that. But, I cheated and, well, maybe not. I did not cheat. So 192.idon'tremember.com. Yeah, I'm terrible. 192.27. I did have it copy pasted, but I guess that was in the other one. Alright, so yeah, I just did the IP adder over here again. Yeah. So I'm just setting the server, so that's just going to be the DNS server that it's going to use. Again, because that's not set up for you on this one. You have to set that manually. Alright, and what I'm going to do, so it's asking me, so it wants to know what the name server is. So this is where Google is very helpful. This is probably, if you get nothing else out of all of this, Google is your friend. Like, there's only so much memory in your head. So definitely use your Googles or whatever other reference you want, like my book. That helps too. But we want to set, so basically for syntax things, definitely Google is your friend. If we had one syntax that everything used, then we'd remember it. But let's face it, everything has its own syntax. Don't feel bad if you have to look it up. So to talk to DNS lookup, we can say set type, and then we say equals and ns for name server. And so that's going to tell it we want the name servers, and we want it for dnsrecon.com. All right, so this top part up here that just says, this is the server that we use. Since we, set that, that's not really interesting to us. It's exactly what we told it to do. Port 53 is the default for DNS. So it says DNS Recon has two name servers, DNSrecon.com and NS2 DNS Recon. The question it says what's the IP address of the primary, so I guess the primary is probably NS. Let's say set type equals A for address. Again, look that up if you don't remember it. And this time, so we want the address of ns.dnsrecon.com. And that tells us the address is 192.168.68.4. So that should be the answer to that, theoretically. Next question. What is the IPv4 address of dnsrecon.com? Well, we already set type to A, but let's do it again. Set type equals A for address, and we want DNS recon. Let's spell it correctly. I told you guys that watching me type. One, you have to hear the type. But, on top of that, I'm prone to mistakes. So it looks like 192.168.68.2. How many mail servers does DNS Recon have? So again, we want to set type equals, and for mail servers, it's MX. You got me where they got that. MX. And again, dnsrecon.com. So we've got two mail servers, it looks like, mail and mail 2. So I suppose the answer to that one is 2. What is the IP address of the mail server of dnsrecon.com, which has the highest priority? This might also, you're probably going to be able to guess correctly. Mail 2 probably is a backup, and mail is the primary. But actually, the deciding factor is actually this number here. The lower number for mail exchanger equals is, that tells you which one's the primary. So it's actually going to be, as you probably guessed, mail.dnsrecon.com. And so what did it want to know about it? The IP address of it. Alright, well, we know how to do that already. Set type equals A for address. And we want mail.dnsrecon.com. And 192.168.68.10. You're probably seeing a trend here. We just need to set the type that we want, tell it what we want it to ask, and it's turning names that we can say like mail.dnsrecon.com into numbers I undoubtedly will say wrong, like 192.168.68.10. Well, okay, I got that one right, but fair enough. You get what I'm saying. What is the geographical location of dnsrecon.com? I will admit that I had to Google this one because I was not sure what the type was for location. You might probably guess what it is. Or some of you may know it already. Alright, so, that shows you, my publisher said, as an author, I can never admit to things like that, like not remembering stuff, because it makes me look like I'm not an expert, but throwing all that out the window, I absolutely have to look stuff up all the time because I just, forget stuff like that. There's some commands I use all the time that I always remember. And then, the tool updates itself and they change all the commands and then I don't know anything again. So Really, don't feel like you have to know everything. So we want to set type to LOC. That's what location is. So set type to location and DNS recon.com. And, it's got some actual, like, coordinates there for them, north and west and whatnot. So that's actually the location for that. Pretty cool. I mean, I guess if you wanted to drive there. And which domain corresponds to 192.168.65.8? Well, alright. Let's ask it. This one, actually, all we have to do is give it that IP address. We don't have to set a type or anything. Well, I guess since it's already set to location, we should probably set it back to... Well, let's see what happens if we don't. I'm not entirely sure what we would set that to. But let's just do what it is. Say its IP address was 192.168.65.8. 192.168.65.8. Yeah, I didn't have to set it. I thought it might still take the type as location from the previous, but it didn't. That's good. Alright, it says its name is private.dnsrecon.com, so that should be the last flag. So, yeah, just, we got some interesting information from this. I mean, they've got mail server, because they're all, like, have dnsrecon.com in the name, they seem to own it themselves, so... one, it's probably in scope in your Pentest. Two, you can start looking for, whatever mail. You can start looking at what kind of mail server they're running and what known vulnerabilities they might have in it. I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here. We'll look at stuff like that when we do vulnerability discovery. Same thing with, the name servers and, private.dnsrecon.com. Not sure what that is quite yet, but... it might be something that we can find interesting information about. So again, we're just gathering information at this point, not directly attacking anything, but this is able to give us, a fair amount of useful information pretty quickly. So, that's it for this lesson. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.